I stopped counting calories and I don't track macros. To be honest, I feel pretty good about that. I myself have tried many different types of diets and found something simple that works really well for me. So, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm eating. Now, I know when it comes to nutrition and food, everyone's always looking for that secret sauce. Is there that secret diet or is there that way that I can cheat the system, right? Here's the truth. You can't cheat the system. The simplest and most easiest way to do it is you're just gonna have to eat less than what you're actually currently eating now. If your goal is weight loss, ultimately, there's no way to avoid that. But there are simpler ways of implementing this strategy. Now, when it comes to food and diets, there are no shortages of strategies on how to execute this and get this done. And truthfully, if you're able to find one and stick to it long enough, it should work. That's the truth. Now, the key here is being able to stick to it. Now, it has to be something personal to you. I think diets are very personal. It's very individual. It's very hard for it to be cookie cutter. Basically, one diet will work for everybody. I think a diet philosophy is a very personal thing. And to me, I think it has to be something that's catered to you, right? So when it comes to what works for me, it may not work for you because this is something that fits into my lifestyle, fits into the way that I live my life, and basically the way that belief that I have. But here's some knowledge when it comes to nutrition and diet in general. It's pretty universal across the board that you need to be in some sort of caloric restriction, whether that's you're cutting out entire food groups or you're restricting yourself to eating in a certain window, or you're just eating smaller portions overall and just feeding them throughout the day, more meals throughout the day. Whichever diet philosophy works best for you, that's what you should do. My belief is if it's not repeatable for the long term, then it's really not something that's going to be sustainable in your life because it's ultimately about changing the way you live your life. It's about being somebody different than you were before. And in that gap in between, that's where the discomfort is, that's where the change needs to be. And that's where a lot of people fail because they get stuck in the middle from where they are to where they want to be. And I think that a sustainable diet that you can do repeatably is something that you need to find. It's a very personal thing, I feel. But this is what works for me and this is what I'm doing. So, one thing that doesn't or that I don't like that I figured out that now I changed that is that I don't really like fully structured meal plans to where it tells me exactly what to cook, gives me all the ingredients and gives me the food list, all the ingredients, has my meals laid out for the entire week, whether it's 3 meals a day. For example, it might be you do chicken breast with broccoli and some brown rice. That's just an example, right? That could be your meal one. Then your meal two could be a salad with ground chicken or chicken and lettuce and some kind of low calorie dressing. And then your dinner could be a steak with a baked potato or a sweet potato and a vegetable like broccoli. So that's like a structured meal plan. So it tells you exactly what to follow. Like for me, I tend to do with a food list. So basically it tells me what I can have and what I can have in moderation. So that way I can plan my own meals because for me, I like to cook. So I like to create my own dishes myself. So that's kind of what works for me. So that's what I do. I follow a food list. So when it comes to fixing your food in Dr. Livingood's framework, I basically took his food list and I'm looking at the foods that he recommends that I can have. And then in that, I went to ChatGPT and asked it, what are other foods that would be able to fit this criteria, right? Have to be low carb, low sugar, and all of those kinds of things, right? So what I did, that's the first thing. I personally like food lists. So knowing what I can have and what I can't have is for me what I like to do. And then I like to create my own meals. So now to expand on that, what exactly am I implementing. So based off of the food list that I have, I'll pick a protein. Actually, I'll pick two proteins, because what I like to do is I will meal prep. So I like to meal prep my meals. So I will pick two types of proteins, whether it's a ground protein or a whole protein. I like to choose one ground and one whole, just to make one dish more simple, one a little bit more complex. And then I will plan out a meal. I'll go look for vegetables and different types of cuisines that I could cook, and things that I think that at my skill level I can execute. So I'll pick one day to meal prep. For me, that's Sunday, and I will cook 2 meals and prep for 5 days, or for 5 to 6 days, based off of the portion size that I'm able to get. Sometimes when you buy whole proteins like chicken thighs, you'll get more than 2 pounds. So when I get a ground protein, I'll typically go with 2 pounds, and then I'll cook that, and then however long that lasts. So if you, for example, 2 pounds would be, so 1 pound is 16 ounces. So if you go 4 ounces per meal, then that would give you 4 meals. So if you go 2 pounds, you should be able to get 8 meals out of that. I tend to get about 5 or 6. So that's kind of how I plan my meals out. So you could take away from that and move on to the next one. So I feel that diets tend to be kind of problem specific too. So my current problem would be my cholesterol's too high, my blood pressure's too high, so I want to get that down. So the purpose of this is to, I guess it's to clear my arteries out, which is trying to lower the fat content in my body, which is pretty much the purpose of every diet. But I say some diets are a little bit more driven to, say, if you're having issues with high blood sugar, then you probably want to be doing a similar diet with me, because I guess probably go over what my numbers are in a later video. But I actually was able to cut my A1C in half, which my A1C wasn't a problem to begin with, but it basically got cut in half, basically being on this particular diet. And it wasn't that long. It was pretty, maybe within 4 to 5 weeks, it was able to cut those numbers in half. But if that's not your problem, then maybe a different diet might work for you. But this is what I'm doing to take care of my problem when it comes to lowering my blood pressure and cholesterol. What I do is look on the food list. I'll follow the food list. I'll pick a protein, and I will look to put in a vegetable or carbohydrate type vegetable replacement that is of lower carbohydrates. When you think about no carb or no sugar, it's actually low carb and low sugar, because everything is going to have some sort of carbohydrates in it. Even beef has sugars in it. I know you're kind of thinking like, oh, it's protein, but they have natural sugars inside. So that's where that caramelization comes from. When you sear a steak, that's what kind of gives it that nice golden brown color on the outside. There's natural sugars in things. So even like berries and bell peppers, they have small amounts of sugar in them. And even something like spinach or broccoli, you wouldn't think that they'd have sugar in it, but they actually have a really small amount of sugar. And then the rest of the carbs that they do have is going to be fiber. So fiber is something that you want. So don't worry about, when you look at the packaging, how much carbs has. The majority of it is probably fiber. So now the third thing that I'm doing when it comes to my food is that you have to watch out for your sauces. I noticed that a lot of the sauces that you could find, especially seeing that I'm on a low sugar diet, I'll have to look at the sauces and look at what's in it. I'm also trying to avoid soy too, personally. So I use a lot of soy replacement type of products, and I'm also looking at what the ingredients are inside the actual sauce itself, because a lot of them will have hidden types of bad oils in them as well. I tend to avoid anything with any seed oils or rotten type of oils in them, and then I will opt once for more higher quality oils. Yes, it could be more expensive, so just be mindful of that. But I also like to ask ChatGPT, what can I use as a replacement for certain types of ingredients, especially if you look up a recipe and it has something that you're like, okay, that doesn't fit into my current diet plan. So ask ChatGPT for a replacement, and it will give you a replacement, if not a recipe to make for yourself. So it does take a little bit more effort, but I say that that's worth it for you to do that, because some recipes will call for something that has, unfortunately, certain ingredients that may be restricted to your diet. But a workaround for that is to make your own, and just that effort is, I say worth the effort. And then last thing is when it comes to sourcing of your ingredients. Now, for me, I like to try to avoid as many unnecessary toxins as possible. And I realize that sometimes that's not very practical or that's unavoidable, right? There's just sometimes that you're just not able to avoid it. And I would say don't worry about that. I would say it's all about what you do the majority of the time. Like if you skip a day and you mess up and you're not following the diet that you're following, it's okay. Just be like, draw the line and we're gonna start over tomorrow. So don't worry about that. But what you don't want is, or what you want to avoid is when you let that thing go on for days and weeks. And then that's where the damage comes in. So you just want to realize that, hey, messed up. I'm starting over today and let's do it, right? Because it's about what you're doing the majority of the time. So with that said, when it comes to proteins and vegetables or produce, when it comes to those two things, and you have to make a choice on which one you want to buy a higher quality on, I would opt for the protein. And the reason for that is because the amount of time that it takes to grow a cow, a pig, a chicken, or even any type of animal, it takes significantly longer than it would to grow vegetables, right? The load that are in the cells of the meat or in the flesh of the meat, it absorbs a lot more over time because they're exposed to it for a longer period of time as they grow. As for the vegetables, it's shorter, so yes, they'll probably have some. You should always be washing your vegetables anyways to clean the majority or most of that off. I could make suggestions on how to do that later, but that's something you want to be doing anyways. There are vegetables, I believe it's the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So you can look that up. I'll put a link to it below. So those are 15 vegetables that you can buy that are pretty clean when it comes to their, exposure to pesticides. And then the Dirty Dozen are ones that you definitely want to opt for getting organic or more natural forms of, if you can verify it. It's things these days, it's hard for you to be able to verify if they actually are organic or low or clean, right? So that's the hardest part when it comes to that. If you had to choose, because I do realize that trying to eat healthier, trying to eat something that's more natural, it is more expensive. So I do acknowledge that. But if you're gonna have to pick between the two, I would say go with the clean protein or the better quality protein, and you can sacrifice when it comes to your vegetables and produce. But if you could do all and it's within your budget, then you do it all. Because the differentiation that I make, I do the higher quality of protein first, and then whatever I can find for the vegetables. Because sometimes there's only organic, or there is only the normal version of it. There's no organic version because not everything is organically grown. That's what I do for that. And that is what I do about my nutrition. I try to keep it as simple as possible. I don't know if I was able to represent that here. So it's mostly unscripted. So if it seemed like I was all over the place, that's why. Just coming straight out of here and from here. You guys have any questions or any comments, you leave that down below. And if you liked the information that I put out, then give me a thumbs up and subscribe to follow along in my journey. I'm still learning a lot about myself, definitely, and a lot about different foods and different types of diets that I may potentially want to implement into my life. But for right now, low sugar, low carbs is working for me. I actually don't really crave like the carbs that I used to. I used to always want to eat potato chips before. I don't crave like sweets. Not that I was really into sweets before, but I don't really crave them like you would think that I would. Well, that's all I got for you today. If you want to follow along, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. See you later.